Good night and welcome to Mindful Live 387. I'm your host Nathan Springer. Thank you for joining me. It is currently the 1st of May, a brand new month, people. It is May, the 5th month of the year, swinging into the mix. Yup. And we are presently in the beautiful Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, paradise on earth. Where else would paradise be? Hey, Ronnie, what's up? And as per usual, we're here talking culture, news, current affairs, whatever politics pops into the discussion. That's what we do here. And this evening, at least starting us off, the first thing we have, I'm tired of not staying long. I don't know how long we're here for tonight. But yeah, the first thing we're jumping off in tonight has to do with the possibilities of some restrictions coming on social media. You know, many people have a lot to say about the TikTok ban and the TikTok ban in the United States. And to me, some of it is misplaced and exaggerated. Some people do seem like they misunderstand exactly what the ban is. Technically speaking, the TikTok ban in the United States is not really a ban, it's a divestment bill. You must ensure that one of your investors no longer remains an investor in your company. They no longer have a stake in your company. And if they continue to have that stake in your company, then your product will not be allowed in this territory. And either way, even if it is fully banned, understand that that's talking about, for the most part, on the Play Store and that kind of stuff. There would almost always be some kind of backdoor method into it nonetheless. But it's a divestment bill for the most part, and ostensibly the reason they put forward is that they do not want their main global competitors to have an investment, a serious stake in a company that is able to manipulate their young people's opinions. And I mean, I understand that. I've said this before. I understand why, as a sovereign country, you would be a bit concerned that another country who you are at loggerheads with has an obscure app that we know is very powerful. Now, I'd like to also highlight, I continue to say this because I think it needs being said, and it brings some honesty on the whole picture. Very likely a lot of the ban and all of that has to do with the whole Israel-Palestine discussion, and some folks in power in the United States deciding which way they want that whole narrative to go, and they may not have liked the way TikTok seemed to have been pushing the narrative. Now, be that as it may, that doesn't negate whether they were right or not about the dangers of the app. It should be understood and known from the jump that TikTok is banned on many official devices in multiple countries all over the world. So it's not a new thing to be concerned about TikTok as pertaining to security, right? That's not a new thing. So, like, I think some of the worry is a bit exaggerated, to be very honest. I think some of it is. Now, I understand why there is worry though, because unlike China, on this side of the world, we like to believe we have freedom and we are free to speak, one of the most important freedoms. I see Ronnie doing a real service on our own, hitting that like button, so hey, make sure you all join in, hit that like button, double tap the screen over there on TikTok. That's how you hit the like button. If you are viewing this on YouTube, please do hit that like button too. Or if you're viewing this on repeat also, feel free to hit that like button, take a pause, drop a comment, tell me what you think. But yeah, the ban to me seems like just a natural process. But I understand why many people are concerned about it, because on this side of the world, we are very concerned about our freedoms, and freedom of speech is one of the preeminent ones. Now, bear in mind, freedom of speech is enshrined in the Constitution of the United States. That's not exactly in our Constitution. You don't have that freedom of speech. I like to highlight that to Trinis out there. Don't go out there talking freedom of speech, freedom of speech. That's not in your law books, sir. We don't have that here. You cannot go and cuss the police. They will arrest you. So speech laws in Trinidad and Tobago isn't a strange thing. Let that be known. But the reason freedom of speech is seen as such a pinnacle for many people is because freedom of speech, to some extent, is seen as freedom to think. Because we think in words. And one of the ways we refine our thoughts is by speaking to other people. And as we speak to people, those thoughts in words are able to, be refined out. Nice, Ronnie. I appreciate. And if we are not able to speak, then we are not able to properly, morning, Nisi, we are not properly able to ascertain the ideas that are good or bad. If we cannot discuss something and we are on a bad path, how are we going to rectify that path if we cannot even talk about it? So freedom of speech is a pinnacle, especially when you're talking about Western civilization. And I understand fully why a lot of people are as concerned about it. And many times we hear governments and state agencies speak about protecting people and doing away with some freedom of speech for protection and helping people. Usually it comes with a sting in the tail. So I understand the suspicion many people have of it. Especially now when we're seeing here in Trinidad and Tobago, we seem to be heading, at least one senator was speaking about heading us down a similar line where they're attempting to police general elections. Independent Senator Paul Richards says TNT cannot survive a blow to the credibility of its election process. He made the comment on Monday after raising emotion on the need for legislative reform to address risks posed by the misuse of social media in light of the general elections due in 2025. During his presentation, Richards noted that the proliferation of social media platforms, as well as political actors and malicious entities, had allowed for the manipulation of public opinion and voter behavior. In underscoring his call for legislative changes, Richards referenced instances of documented interference utilizing social media. Persons and agents advance their own political agendas, undermining the trust in democracy and democratic process, undermining cohesion in the country, destabilizing countries, influencing specific target audiences to obtain elections around the world, particularly in developing countries, undermining the electoral process, hacking management systems, disinformation about the election results. Now, here's one of my problems with this whole thing. There's a mishmash of terms. There's an overload of terms inside of this whole thing. He's talking about hacking management systems. He's talking about undermining the electoral process. But then he's talking about influencing specific target audiences. Now, the thing is, influencing specific target audiences is what elections are about. That's how people win elections. Like, there's a blurry line between election interference and regular campaigning. Like, if I am influential, okay, I do a nightly show. By the time next year swings around, should we all be in the land of the living here kicking around? By the time next year swings around, I don't know, I didn't see it. By the time next year swings around, I have a large audience and the election is coming in. So people may be listening to my views on election. If I am saying that a specific group seems to be lying a lot, that could influence people. Is that election interference? And should the state be looking to clamp down on my voice because I may spread election interference, disinformation, or something of the such. Richards also said there had been instances where social media was weaponized to spread misinformation and incite hate and violence. He insisted TNT's election process could not afford to be weakened. He said these bots and trolls and algorithms can influence the will and ability of voters through disinformation of voting procedures and undermining the very will to vote. They influence the political preference of voting in some instances, hacking political organizations, leaking stolen information, and targeting certain groups. I don't think this country can easily survive a blow to the democracy of the electoral process. Here's the thing. My view on this is if a country's democratic process is so fickle that allowing people to speak freely about it may cause it to collapse, then it deserves to collapse. You don't protect the electoral system by making sure people cannot speak about it. And you see, the problem with the whole disinformation and misinformation business, and I hope a lot of people are a lot more sensitive to this now that we came out of the whole COVID-19 couple of years. The whole problem with the disinformation and misinformation, well, there are several issues, but one is that one of those is basically suggesting a lie. So, misinformation is, I believe, the one that is basically suggesting a lie. And if someone lies, then how could we allow that out there? But here's the thing. It's not illegal to lie. Politicians do it all the time. And you cannot ban people because you are afraid that they will lie. What you do to solve that is you tell the truth. And the truth is supposed to be able to crumble whatever lie comes. Here's the other issue. Other than the misinformation, which is possibly a lie, but there's an issue even in deciding what is a lie and what is truth. I would suppose some people could understand that, especially when you're going into political conversations. There are things on the fringes that the lie and the truth of it kind of gets blurry, like did Dr. Rowley make sure that Mr. Griffith didn't come back in the commissioner position, or was that just regular part of the process? This Auditor General business, did someone attempt to get the Auditor General to backdate a report, or is this a storm in a teacup raised by a disgruntled Auditor General? Which one is the truth? And can you legislatively determine which one it is? All right, and that's misinformation. That's still supposedly a bit clearer. The idea of disinformation isn't even necessarily about a lie. The idea is that someone may be telling something that might be possibly the truth, but it is used to sway people. So, what are we going to do about that? Like, are you telling me that your hope is for the government to legislatively mandate an official government narrative that we must all follow, and anyone who doesn't follow it is at penalty of the law? And interestingly enough, someone was saying the creeping dictatorship. This is an independent senator who was making this statement. However, responding to matters on the adjournment, Communication Minister, the minister in the government, Simon de Nobrega, noted that legislation was not the only response to social media abuse and misuse, and that several factors, including the freedom of speech, must be considered. The crafting of the legislation would have to be done while also jealously guarding both the freedom of the press and freedom of expression, and may also require a constitutional or special majority. Now, the idea that it requires a special majority gives me a bit of a comforting feeling, the idea being that the chances are they are not going to pass it so easily. But it's interesting to me that an independent senator is the one pushing this forward. while the government representative seems to be the one dialing back on the push of this. And what compounds the interest of this whole thing doubly on top of that is that this independent senator came up from the radio. This is a radio host turned senator. Independent Senator Paul Richards. Paul and Nikki on the morning. Millennials know about that. You come up through speech. Now, granted, your medium was a bit different back then. You had the radio medium back then, but that was your medium. There are people coming up now, and your idea is to pull up the ladder, look to get the government involved in this with some legislation. How would such a legislation look? Are we going to end up like the United Kingdom, where there are people currently facing jail time for memes? If you hurt someone's fifis online with a meme, the police come to arrest you? Is that the direction we really want to go in? Like, you know, people in Trinidad, regularly I hear people are upset that Trinis take everything for a joke. The shark come, and a very significant issue, and not to minimize the issue, the shark attacked a tourist. The tourist was significantly injured. That's a serious issue. But Trinis being Trinis, there are many memes and funny videos, and people are offended. How dare Trinis? You can make Trinis make a joke out of everything. No, when it's time to joke and when it's time to see. Here's the thing. Policing joke tone doesn't work. The people who found it funny, when you attempt to police the tone of the joke, they find it funnier. That doesn't work. And to me, that's when people talk about Trinidad and our culture. You know, regularly people talk about culture, and I remember learning in the social sciences and all of those things about culture erasure and the Americanization of Trinidad, and everybody loves to talk about the Caribbean culture and keeping that Caribbean culture strong and resilient. Well, this is the Caribbean culture. We make fun of those things. People have to get a thick skin because that's how we make fun. White Leather says Trinidadians lose their food card and disability grants because of Facebook posts adverse to the PNM. We're not that far off. Listen, that is miles away. Miles away, White Leather. Miles upon miles upon miles upon miles. Personally, I find lots more people supposed to lose that food card and disability grant. Just saying. Look at the statistics on disability. Since disability became a grant, look how many more disabled people we have in society. Just letting you know, it's an interesting thing. Now, bear in mind the food card thing, for most people, they very well know it's a political business anyhow. Both sides. All the time, all these picking up food cards in 2010 to 2015 was a popular thing. They know it's a political give out. So, I mean, if you know it's political patronage that gave you it, that's still different to me, because this you're talking about political gimmickry. That's what we're talking about there. And political gimmickry, that's how it works. If you had, we know in Trinidad and Tobago, there are many jobs given through political friendship. Your mother knew somebody who knew somebody, and he call a call and he call a call and you get in. If that's how you get in, you're surprised that's how you get out? I'm saying it's not far-fetched for them to ban free speech. They're already doing it. That's not banning free speech, though. That there is not what you call banning free speech. Because there isn't a legal consequence for it. You lose a privilege. That's not banning free speech. It's not like you can't make the post. It's not like it's against the law to make the post. That's not banning free speech. It's not the same thing. Maybe it's a bad thing. But it's not the same thing. But yeah. Radio host turned senator wants to pull up the ladder. let's jump in over on the Auditor General again. Some more people came out in her defense. More people came out in the defense of the Auditor General. Alex for you too says, sad that the majority cannot discern certain things are really obvious, but not surprised, Ronnie said. Brown, Ramdas did her job creditably. Former Minister in the Ministry of Finance, Mariana Brown, is of the opinion that there was an attempt to compromise Auditor General Jaiwanti Ramdas, as a legal letter to the Finance Ministry suggests that she did her job professionally and creditably. In a WhatsApp exchange with the Express, Brown said, I just read the legal letter from the Auditor General. It seems she did attempt to cooperate with the Minister by reviewing delayed information. Given that there was inadequate information to verify the missing revenue, the Auditor General indicated that she could not verify the revised revenue numbers submitted by the Ministry of Finance and said so in her report. Clearly, there was an attempt to compromise, but concluded rightfully that the new number could not be verified, which is what has provoked this impasse. The country expects public officials in a professional capacity to do their job. The information in the public domain clearly suggests that the Auditor General did her job professionally and creditably, leaving the political directorate to play the political game. It appears the Auditor General also alleges no additional documentation to verify the veracity of the omitted data. In this regard, these figures were not amended, hence the reason why the government is amending the said S24. Banning, White Leather says, banning, governing, controlling, regulating, influencing, whatever word you prefer. He added, at this point, the Treasury must explain the error, provide support documentation, and alter the statute as required. The Auditor General has no freedom of action here. She must act in accordance with the statute. You know, like, my initial understanding of this was a simple mix-up. But if there seems to be a lack of documentation for the mix-up, is there more to this, Ronnie? Yo, Chris Scott. Sunity, bizarre behavior by the government. Sunity, this could have been avoided. The government could have prevented the entire controversy surrounding the office of the Auditor General had they come to the Parliament with the motion to extend the time to submit accounts to our office when it first discovered that revenue was understated by over 3 billion, Independent Senator Suniti Maraj said on Monday. Maraj was the lone independent senator who abstained from voting on the government's motion to extend the time for the Auditor General to provide the annual national accounts to the country. In a Senate contribution, Maharaj said it was bizarre that the government came with the motion for the extension after the fact, and it was also bizarre that there was the presumption that the Auditor General would willfully block information and not deal with it. I agree with Suniti. And as we were discussing on this issue last night, some things are just so strange in it. Like the Attorney General advising the Minister of Finance so that when the Auditor General comes to him for advice, he cannot advise her. Strange. Like, to me, as I said last night, I would assume these offices, not that they are supposed to be co-conspirators, but they are supposed to work together. Can't the Attorney General facilitate that? Or, as Suniti Maraj said, if you have a legislative option, you already have the majority in Parliament. From the time you recognize the error, why not use that legislative avenue and your parliamentary majority? Or is it that they assume that they would have been able to push this through the functionaries, the public servant functionaries, and that they would just go along with it? Maharaj said common sense would dictate that the government should have taken action and brought the motion to the parliament to extend the reporting time and give the Auditor General time and constitutional protection to do her work. From the minute it was discovered that the statements were underreported to the extent of over 3 billion, you knew you had a problem. You had to be proactive and you had to file for the extension at that point. It was a grave mistake of the highest order, in my view, for the extension not to have been sought to let the Auditor General know she had the constitutional protection in order to do the job. Agreed. And a lot of these things, these are the finer aspects of governing. And, you know, getting into the details of these things, if I were to read their 4, 5, 6 articles on this whole issue in the different publications for the day, if I were to go through all of those articles, I'm sure a lot of people would be bored because it goes into the nitty-gritty, it goes into the fine details. But you see, that's the whole point. This is what governing is about. This is the part of governing that is supposed to be the more important issue, not just the public speaking side, the side of actually tightening the bolts, screwing down the screws, battening the hatches, latching the latches. This is the important part. And you could wonder about the capabilities and competencies when you see things like this. And whether it is they're trying to get political movements out of public servant offices. And that's a problem. As we're in politics though, speaking about politics, the UNC has bacchanal brewing. There are dissident MPs in the UNC apparently. Charles trashes Kamala's attendance in Parliament. Estranged UNC MP Rodney Charles has accused UNC leader Kamala Persad-Bissessar of not being present in Parliament to vote on at least 20 crucial bills over the term. You see, this was inevitable. Some UNC MPs, 5 I believe, didn't turn up last Friday. And there was a vote. The vote went on without them. Their leader, their political leader, was upset. How could they not turn up? They put us in a weaker footing politically. She threw out that, you know, this is poor on their part. You are paid to come to your job. This is your job. Come and listen and vote. This is what you're paid to do. But obviously, from the moment I read that she made that statement, I knew for sure, for certain, that people would get comparative on this. If you are saying that these MPs are showing a dereliction of duty by missing attendance to a parliamentary sitting, isn't it then fair game to compare how many of those parliamentary sittings you missed yourself? Charles did so via a statement yesterday after Persad-Bissessar accused him and MPs Rushton Parry, Rai Ragbir, Dinesh Rambali, and Anita Haynes-Alain of running away from Parliament and breaking beach for last Friday's vote on a government motion. Yesterday, Charles, citing his performance, said that between 2020 and 2024, he spoke on 44 bills and motions and missed only 7 parliament sittings. He claimed that between 2020 and 2024, he asked 49 questions to the Prime Minister in Parliament, but during the same period, Persad-Bissessar asked only 1. On many occasions during the Prime Minister's questions, she wasn't even present to provide moral support. As we face the full wrath of the raging bull, he claimed, it was MP Charles, not the opposition leader, who took on Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley mano a mano in Parliament. He detailed 9 bills and issues from 2020 and 2024 when he was present and voted. So for the leader to make exaggerated statements about my record in Parliament is careless, irresponsible and ill-advised. In 2023, I issued 68 releases to the media. Charles said despite begging too many times to recall, he had only been placed by UNC on the Foreign and CARICOM Affairs Parliamentary Committee, despite 28 years of expertise and academic and senior energy sector management levels. Saifuddin says, how you feel about the shark slaughter situation in Tobago? I feel like that's what happens. If a shark attacks people, people attack sharks, and that's not very surprising. I mean, I don't know how to feel about it exactly. People are killing sharks. It wouldn't be a good thing if it continues for too long. You don't want to kill out all of the sharks, of course, but I mean, you understand. A shark attacked. People killing sharks is a normal response, I would expect. THA condemns indiscriminate killing of sharks. The THA Division of Food Security, Natural Resources, the Environment and Sustainable Development has strongly condemned the indiscriminate killing of sharks in response to the attack on British tourist Peter Smith by a bull shark at Turtle Beach on April 26th. It's like gang warfare. You take one of us, we take all of you. Chris Scott says, but Rodney Charles hasn't been active in his area of voting. The roads are very poor and water is... Well, how much of the roads are the responsibility of the MPs, you have to ask yourself first up. Are the roads the responsibility of the MP? The water. Is the water the responsibility of the MP? Osmanos says, greetings, can we really justify the increase in chocolate/cocoa domestically? That's an impossible question for me to ask. I do not work in the cocoa or chocolate industry, so I don't know. I have heard about it, but I don't know how precise the justifications are. What are the responsibilities of the MP? Well, that's just the question, isn't it? The MP is the member of parliament. Their main responsibility is parliamentary debate, representing their constituents in parliamentary debate, bringing up issues to parliamentarians, and in making, amending, tweaking laws for the country. If you're talking about paving roads, that's your regional corporation and the Ministry of Works. If you're talking about water, that's WASA, which is the government, which is Ministry of Public Utilities. Check out Mr. Marvin. So we have to understand the responsibilities of the MP at the same time. Maybe you could say if he isn't bringing the issue up because he's supposed to be a representative. So when he goes to parliament, if there are people in his constituency without water, he is supposed to bring that up to Mr. Marvin Gonzalez inside of the parliament there so that the issue is heard. Yes, that's what I'm saying. The MP is supposed to be an advocate. But because there isn't progress does not mean the MP is not advocating. Because it's not up to the MP to get the things done themselves. Lynn says, but if there's a road or water issue, the MP must advocate for the constituency. Yes. But here's the thing. How do you tell if they advocated or not? Because there was some bacchanal going on for some time now in local government, regional corporations, where regional corporations in some UNC-led areas were saying they were being purposefully starved by the central government. But the central government was saying that they were distributing the funds. If the MP for the area says, well, I spoke to the local government representatives and it's the PNM fault, PNM don't like Alia, are you to believe them or not believe them? Ronnie says there should be a record. Right. I wouldn't doubt there's a record too. I wouldn't doubt there's a record. But who is going to find the record? Then it is an effective MP. I suppose you mean an ineffective MP. So are you saying if an MP is unable to convince the government to do something in their favor, they are ineffective? But if they are not a government MP, then that's an incentive for the government to starve them of resources. And then you would blame them for being ineffective. They aren't in control of the resources. They are asking for the resources like anyone else. We see Khadija. I mean, there are some issues about it going around. Yeah. But regularly, I do see her asking for things in St. Augustine and lamenting about things that they don't have in St. Augustine, and they still don't have them. How do you blame an MP for that? If as an MP, I go to the ministry every day and ask them to pave a major road in my constituency, and they don't, is that my fault? Ronnie says, well, if I was starved, one, I'd be publishing my letters left, right, and center. And yeah, but some of them do that. Some of them make a much public issue of this. But bear in mind, the issues we hear are the issues that the news is willing to cover. If there's an MP who every day releases documents about all of the filings he has done and waiting on the government to respond, the news is not going to cover all of those filings. So he could publish them if he wants, but unless he wants to pay to advertise them in the newspaper, he might get 5 likes on his post. You might get 5 likes. And by all means, I agree, you should do that. But understand again, that still doesn't necessarily mean that things would get done. And there are politicians who lament about those things. Government made funds available to opposition to run constituency offices. So you say, but the opposition says otherwise. And it's to me, it's an odd thing to blame the MP for something that a government minister is in charge of. That's kind of insane to me, to blame an MP for things that the government is in charge of. If currently there's a highway building in what would that would be Couva North? Would that be Couva North district there, or is that Shogunas West? Some one of those constituencies you would consider that there. That highway is being built. Is that under the Shogunas West MP? Do they get the credit for it? Do they have any say in that? Ah, Politics. A strange thing. White letter says UN series of legacy due funds. How do we know this? How do we know this? How do we know that some of those UNC legacy areas aren't doing it on purpose to make the government look bad? Just as we could see it might have been the government doing it on purpose to make the UNC look bad. And it's not something outside the realm of possibility. When the Brian Lara Stadium was opened up, somebody was throwing big stones and grapefruits, etc. inside of the toilet system. There was obviously sabotage attempting to make the government look bad. So there are people willing to destroy the country to make the government look bad. Lynn says they better inject themselves into the project or get replaced. What makes a good MP? Grand Rising to Balbumpat. Inject your... Lynn's, what world do you live in? White leather, white leather, white leather, white leather. You need to cut it out. You need to cut it out. Cut up your UNC. Cut up your UNC card. Cut up your UNC card. It's easy, real easy. PNM is the child of Satan, the devil incarnate. Them evil, never do gooders could never do good. UNC, and I say UNC may have done so. Never! That could have never happened. I consider it a little bit. Consider your views on such a little bit. Consider your views on such. Yeah, but yes, Linz, you don't inject yourself into projects. It doesn't work like that. You don't go up on the project site. You don't go up on the project site and inject yourself. Chris Scott says name 5 good the PNM did, Nathan. You see, this is such a strange exercise because it's going to always have people trying to negate that same good because it's in balance. The PNM has governed this country from 1962, is it? The majority of time. There are many good things in this country. On a measure of comparative life, most Trinidadians wouldn't want to live many other places in the world. Let me put it like this. If you could name 5 good things the UNC did, you could name 5 good things the PNM did. Subal, you come back with this, boy. Come back with this nonsense. If you could name 5 good things the UNC did, you could name 5 good things on the balance of balancing them all together. The UNC don't having someone in the ranks to replace Camps. Do you think they can win with her? No, I don't think they can win with her. I've said that numerous times. I think she's going to lose again, like she has kept on losing ever since Tanti tell her God will dig out her, God will bust her eye. You all forget that? The Tanti said, if you and your family grew up in a cane field and you build your house, and you grow up your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren, and people want to come and bust and dig out your eye or bust your eye. No. God go bust them eye. That's what she said. She said, God will bust them eye. And ever since Princess Margaret made that statement, Camps cannot win an election. Camps cannot win an election ever since. You should have never built the highway there. Never. But no, I don't think that Mrs. Prasad Bisesa would win another election. I just don't think it's in the cards for her. But yeah, the balance. I've said this before. That's one of the things I don't like about our political system. The amount of plausible deniability, the lack of accountability. It's never easy to pinpoint one person. Mikhail Modesto says, do you think her mindset is CAMS first, UNC first, or country first? I don't know the lady's mindset. That's impossible for me to see. I think that the UNC created the monster. That's a UNC created phenomena. The 2010 campaign was done in a personal branding manner, not a party branding manner, and it stuck. They ran every campaign that we since. So the persona is tied up in the party and it becomes difficult. Tubal Bampat says if she steps down, they will win. I'm not sure that's true. I think if she steps down, they will have a higher possibility and probability of winning, but I don't think it's a sure thing like that. It's who is going to go up for them, who would contest. Chris Scott says she needs to step down if UNC continue with the internal fight. Red will win next election. I think even if they didn't have the internal fight and they just went calmly into the election with their current leadership, the Red was going to win anyway. I think the Red was carded to win anyway if they continue with the current formula they're using. They have to get someone else. And it's kind of getting later and later and later to get someone else who's going to be believable. Someone that the country would believe is different, that the country would believe isn't just a puppet. It can, well, I mean, can is a matter of possibility, and yes, possibilities are infinite. So yes, it can happen. Do you think a Michaela Pandey-led UNC is a better UNC? Yes. If you're talking electorally, 100%. I think Michaela Pandey, a Michaela Pandey-led UNC would have the nostalgia of bringing in back on some despondent former UNC supporters with the Pandey legacy vote. I think she is seen as a member of the younger generation, so you will get some younger people vote just because of that. And I don't think she's seen necessarily as UNC stalwart. Even though her father was the UNC founder, I don't think she's necessarily seen in the same way where, you know, some people may be scared of. Like if Dr. Tim Gopi Singh or Suraj Ratan Rambachan or Dr. Munilal or for example, the guy who recently, Mr. Karim, who recently passed, guys like them who are UNC stalwarts, if they were to go into the leadership position in the UNC, many people who already have wariness when it comes to the UNC itself would keep that wariness with them because it seems like same old, same old. But I think, strange enough, I don't think Michaela would have that weight. Yeah, Lily now jump in there, girl. Lily now passing there. I have a new party can gravitate towards winning. Okay, Tubal. Good luck with that, brother. Hold it down. Maybe you might win. I hope you get back your deposit. Might be difficult, but all the best. The competition might help, you know, help even things out in the country a bit more. Political competition. Hey, I hear the German get robbed. Who was walking across the country to show that the country is safe. He get robbed. White Leather asks, What has Michaela done for Trinidad in the last 5 years, 9 years, for her to be deserving of such exaltation? What do you mean done for Trinidad? What do you mean by that? What was she supposed to do? What is supposed to be her track record for her to be worthy of consideration? Like, what do you expect from someone for them to be worthy of that consideration? Is it that they are supposed to be in political office before? Is it that you want a politician who has been a politician for the last 40 years and then they're going to do it? White Leather says, what are her accolades for her to be worthy of a PM in waiting? Her accolades are not being Kamala Persad-Bissessar, to be very honest with you. That is the accolade. And people understand that she's a lawyer. People find that when she speaks concisely. She has put forward political ideas before, and it seems that she has thought about these issues. She has discussed these issues. She has discussed matters of integrity. I don't know what more you want if we are in a political system that is locked into a two-party system. Is it that she was supposed to compromise and join the PNM or the UNC in order to get a senator position, and then after she gets that senator position, she compromises some more, and maybe she gets a minister position, and after that maybe she might get an MP position, and then 30 years down the road, when she's 30 years more compromised, then she goes up. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand that. Like, in terms of what you're seeing there, what are the accolades of Mrs. Persad-Bissessar that makes her worthy of being a PM in waiting? Having been a failed PM before? Who are these people? She's been having parties, Patriotic Front, etc. You didn't vote for her then. Well, she didn't contest elections before, and we understand there's a two-party nature to the beast. That's why the question was, if she was at the head of the UNC, where it seems like there's a possibility of her winning. You know, White Leather, I would really like for you to join the discussion someday. Let's actually talk. I would enjoy talking to you, I think. I think I would enjoy talking to you. It would be interesting. She isn't a UNC. Why would they elect her as leader? What do you mean AUNC? What's AUNC? Isn't that a party affiliation that you could switch at a moment's notice? What do you mean she isn't AUNC? How does one become AUNC? Woy Kenroy? Appreciated. How does one become a UNC? I would suppose that it's not difficult for her to become AUNC. So that's not a good enough hurdle. That's a very easy hurdle to cross. And I mightn't be surprised if you hear she has a party card for UNC somewhere around. Right, so she could pay her subscription. Don't you think so? And then become a UNC. And that's that. Now, the question of why would they elect her in terms of the UNC, I don't think she would win an internal UNC elections against Kamala Persad-Bissessar. But that wasn't the question. That wasn't the question. I don't think she'd win Kamala Persad-Bissessar in the UNC if she went up for internal elections for political leader. I don't think so. Yes, he did. But that wasn't the question. I know, Ronnie. That's why I say I don't think anyone in the UNC right now is able to beat Kamala Persad-Bissessar in an internal election. I don't think they have that person currently in the UNC. And I understand why. With supporters like White Leather, I see that reinforced positioning where it's nearly like a moral stand where they believe that this is the right and she is the mother. She's supposed to lead. She's supposed to be the right one. She's supposed to, and they will supposed to be losing every election going down the road, waiting on the supposed to be. Who is young boy? Saddam? I don't think Saddam beats Kamala inside the UNC either. I just don't think he has what it takes. Do you see Mr. Saddam taking over from Kamala Persad-Bissessar as head of UN? I just don't see that. Oh, she can step down and give it to, well, that's a different thing. If so, well, that I think would be a boon for them. That would be a serious boost. Tubal says, I show you something can happen the way PNM is treating with election. Joe says, good night. She shouldn't be competing at that ripe old age in politics. She'll be what in the next? Yeah, like I find anytime you're over 70, no septuagenarians should be in politics. Like 70 should be it. 10 is your allotted years. Anything other than that is borrowed time. Boy, go and chill with your family on your borrowed time. Ronnie says if she loses, that will tear the party apart. I don't know. Because I think the party is already tearing apart as it stands. So I think if she loses, there would be a lot of I told you so's, but I don't think it would tear apart more than it has already torn apart. What did White Leather say there? That's what she get for listening to PNM. I don't know what you're talking about. Anita Hines has more of a fight than him. Yes, she does. I'll agree on that. Yeah, man, Joe. 3 squad 10 and rack it up. Chris Scott says, nope, age 60 should be retirement for political figures and should start at age 35 for PM. Like, I don't mind it starts at age 35. People could go up for elections at that age and it's up to the country to vote for them. I don't mind that. But I don't mind into the 60s, personally. This is my personal opinion. I am not the view that younger automatically equals better. I think we have a problem with the old boomers because they are power hungry and they do not want to give up power. I think that's a separate issue from assuming that young people would make better leadership automatically. I do not have that assumption. And I think if I were to choose leaders in the ultimate pinnacle position in the country, I might not mind someone at 65 who is a high functioning person. Like if you look at many of the top performing chairmen of companies, the chairman, the managing director, the president of many companies, many of the most successful companies, you look at them and they are in their 60s. I don't think 60s is past that point. Now, bear in mind, everyone's 60 isn't the same 60. We're talking a healthy and vibrant 60 here. But I think even if you are healthy and vibrant, after you pass the 70, it's just no. Tubal, we just went through that. Weren't you listening? Triniview says she has to stay to get those cutting notes out the ground if she wins election. God forbid, though. Okay, Triniview, that's a different view. Mikhail Modesto says a weak opposition mean the government can't just give out any sub-bar policy. Correct. Danan says, I think we need to flush all our politicians and start fresh with persons who are actually interested in being members of parliament. I don't mind that. All they want now is to be ministers. Mikhail Modesto, correct. The government is made up of the ruling party and the opposition. They both have rules to play. That's why I said I regularly say this. I think a lot of our frozen position in the Trinidad and Tobago electoral landscape has to do with the UNC. Personally, that's my personal opinion. I think we need to figure out a way to tweak the UNC, and we'll get a lot of things flowing after that, because the UNC is the safest party, and then if the safest party is locked in on a losing candidate, we're in real problems. That's 16 seats, 15 seats locked in on a losing candidate perpetually. That's bad for electoral system. Yeah, Drew, I don't mind that. I don't mind that. 35 is a bit stretching, but I mean, if people are voting, they could choose to vote. If you want to run fast, you have to train with people faster than you, Ronnie said. Ooh, big line. Iron sharpens iron. Correct. Why do you think that PNM will win election next year? Because I don't think UNC has what it takes to beat them. I think it's like this. Every election that Dr. Keith Rowley and Mrs. Kamala Persad-Bissessar went up in, Dr. Keith Rowley beat her. All of them. If they go back up for an election, same kind of election, with the same electorate, it's the same trainees voting for the same two people, what changed in the preceding 5 years that you believe is going to cause a change in the electorate? Do you believe that the only new voters we get, the young people that would be between 23 and 18 that changed age in the last 5 years, do you think 18 to 23-year-olds are overwhelmingly in support of Kamala Persad-Bissessar, the 71-year-old? Do you think so? I don't think they're overwhelmingly in support of Dr. Rowley either. I think at best that goes neither way. And neither way is a win for Dr. Rowley. I just don't see what changed in the electorate that's going to now allow for her to win. What changed? When? How? What did the PNM do in the last 5 years that the people who voted for them in 2020 would be shocked about? My assumption is that if Dr. Keith Rowley and Mrs. Kamala Persad-Bissessar go up for election again, what we're going to have is the PNM winning, just a lower voter turnout, because people are going to be less enthused to vote. I believe somewhere up there, Joe, they're going to be less enthused to vote. So I think you're going to have a lower voter turnout. But I still think they're going to win. The voter turnout has no consequence on the winner, really and truly. 5 people could vote, but there'd still be a winner. That's my prediction. I mean, elections are weird things and odd things, and we don't know what's going to happen in the next year. But I just don't see anything other than that. I don't know how. Triniview says she has to stay hoping to quash those UNC court matters and to turn them into no-case submission. Like, Triniview, You nearly sound like the flip side of the coin of white leather there, where all of her reasoning is because UNC is a criminal organization and she's attempting to do criminal acts. I don't believe that's true necessarily either. You think PA and PP endorsement? No, not a lick of difference. Not even a slight bit. Not even a smidgen. I think it does nothing. Not even a little. Where would they have enough voters that they would be able to send UNC's way to switch over a seat? Because that's ultimately what it comes down to. Your endorsement should be able to get more voters in that Tacarigua, El Dorado area to vote UNC and switch that seat. Is your endorsement doing that? I just don't think it is. And as I regularly say, I think for third parties to endorse a main party is one of the surest ways to kill your third party. Chris Scott says PP manifesto does make sense, to be honest. Many, if not most, political organizations' manifestos make sense, you know. Usually they get professionals to write that stuff. The stuff is planned. So it's no surprise that it makes sense. I'm not shocked by that. I believe it would make sense. But anytime I look at a manifesto and the manifesto promises a whole lot of things the government is going to do, that's the wrong manifesto for me. I want a manifesto that says afuera and Trini Hotep. That's what I want. A manifesto, and the only word on the manifesto is afuera. Get the government out. Kick some of those things out. Pull back the government's involvement in every facet of the society. But I don't think there's going to be a party that even proposes that in Trinidad and Tobago landscape anytime soon. And nearly every party in Trinidad and Tobago is some form of the other party didn't promise the good things good enough, we're going to promise it better. We're better at promising you the sky and the stars. I'll give it a read, Chris Scott. I'll give it a read. Campaigning is expensive, Joe. All of that stuff is expensive, so it might be dependent on the sponsor she has, the kind of sponsorship she's rocking with. If she isn't rocking with a lot of sponsorship, then, you know, things could be tough on that campaigning front. What you gonna do? Money talks. Yeah, Ronnie, that's what I was saying. I mean, many political parties have good manifestos. It's not a strange thing for political parties to have good manifestos. The thing is, what's possible also. Not just only their ideas, but what's possible. Is it actually feasible to do? Who has more corn feeds more fowls. And the old people were never more true and correct. All right, people, it's 11:15. That's all I have for now. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. I will see you guys again for the next Mindful Live, which is going to be tomorrow. Thursday Talks. Tomorrow we missed out Thursday Talks last week. So we'll try to make sure we're in for the talking tomorrow. You want to talk, you want to discuss, jump in the live, quarrel if you want, keep it decent. But we can have that talk tomorrow. As Trini Hotep always insists on letting people know. Be mindful, not mindless. Hold it down. Stay well. Stay safe. Keep it in one piece. Stay home. Don't go outside. Inside nice. Outside sketchy. Laters, people. I'm